right, so this is Oklahoma's toughest game of the season, or, well, it was one of the games that I thought Oklahoma would have lost at the beginning of the season when I predicted them to go 10-2. Now, I was wrong on that prediction. 9-3 still in the air. Call me crazy. Y'all are going to call me crazy. But the Oklahoma Sooners are going to Oxford to play Ole Miss. You're coming off a week where you just fired your offensive coordinator in Seth Luttrell, so you kind of have to ask yourself, is the offense going to fight? Are they going to find a spark? Can OU football and Jackson Arnold save their season this week? We got to talk about it. Before we do that, as always, make sure you guys join the discussion. Jump down the comments below. If you guys are listening to this on any of the podcast platforms, give us 5 stars, leave us a review. If you're watching on YouTube and you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that like and you hit that subscribe button. But Oklahoma opens up as a 20-point underdog to Ole Miss. You heard that right. Actually, they opened up at 20 points. Or no, 20 and a half. It's now at 20. And this is this is one of the larger numbers that I've seen in a while. I believe LSU and Alabama in the playoff games that we played, I think those were pretty large spreads. But this one's large. If you're Oklahoma, this is rock bottom. This is where you're at. And so you go into Oxford this week. This is, I think, one of the first times you've played in the state of Mississippi. And really, at this point, you're wanting to just find some semblance that you can play offense. Like, you want to see a spark, maybe just a different voice in that offensive room to be able to ignite the team here, to be able to go out there and just make it look respectable, right? You're going to lose games at this point. We know that. But make them respectable losses, because at this point, when you look at everybody's predictions across the country, from whether they're insiders or other podcasters, nobody is giving Oklahoma anything. Like, you are at rock bottom at this point. Like, the only thing that could get worse is if you're not scoring any points any game. And so last week, you make the quarterback change. Jackson Arnold's in here. And this is where I kind of get to my first point today of what Oklahoma needs to do well. Last week, we saw the connection with Jackson Arnold and Jacob Jordan, right? You saw Jacob Jordan kind of being that guy where he could be a reliable pass catcher for you. You saw the deep ball to Brennan Thompson. Obviously, we've seen a deep ball to J.J. Hester from Michael Hawkins earlier in the season. Oklahoma needs to scheme up more plays like those for Jackson Arnold to be able to win this game. And there is a possibility. I know people think this is crazy to think that Oklahoma's offense can, for some reason, just make this drastic, magical turn. But really, a lot of it is just simple execution from the players, and then basically scheming guys open, right? Running the right routes, doing things like that. We just haven't seen that this season. Piss poor play calling, piss poor execution from the players. Really, you clean up some 2 of those things, and Oklahoma's offense is going to look a little better. If you guys remember, Purdue all season, they were not scoring points. They fired Graham Harrell as their offensive coordinator. The next week, go out there and score 49 points. Still in a loss, but they scored 49 points, right? You saw a rejuvenation in that offensive room. And sometimes all it takes is just a change of voice. Now, Kevin Johns got elevated to co-OC and quarterbacks coach. And I saw George Stoya put something out there the other day about Kevin Johns and basically what he's done, right, as interim's quarterbacks coach and offenses that he's been the offensive coordinator. At Indiana in 2012, 34th, 2013, 9th, 2014, 64th, 15th, 14th. Like, you look at these numbers across the board for Kevin Johns at any of these places that he's been. If you're Oklahoma, you'll take any of those. You'll take any of them. And Kevin Johns is a good quarterbacks coach. He has coached good quarterbacks before. Maybe him being a new voice, bringing him up out of the analyst role, giving him more of a responsibility, maybe this changes something for you. And I'm not saying it's going to happen. So don't take this and jump in the comments and just be like, well, Preston doesn't know what he's talking about. Preston's sitting here saying that Oklahoma's going to turn their offense. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it can happen. Probably not. What you've seen is probably what you're going to get for the rest of the season. It might get a smidge better. By a smidge better, I mean like maybe one more score a game. But I don't think you're going to incrementally improve your offense this offseason or just this season. It's going to take the entire offseason to do that, because we're finding out, Oklahoma's wide receivers, they're just not going to be back this year. Like Deion Burks, George Stoya also announced that he would be out this week, right? It was following up on Pete Thamel's report that he's expected to miss Saturday, George said, hey, we talked about this earlier on Sooner Scoop. Just he suffered a setback during practice. So it doesn't sound like Deion Burks is going to be back. Maybe Farouk comes back, maybe not, though. Like, it sounds like a lot of these guys might just redshirt, take the year, and then come back next season altogether when they're completely healthy. Because some of these soft tissue injuries, they're injuries you don't want to play around with, because as you saw with Nick Anderson, they can turn into something a little bit more serious if the player's not actually ready to go. So if you're Oklahoma, the first thing you got to do is, with the change in the offensive coordinator and getting Kevin Johns as a quarterback's coach and co-OC, you need to try to get these new voices in this locker room to be able to just help scheme stuff up, get guys to execute better, and maybe with the change of voice, maybe something happens different with the offense. Who knows? Maybe we see it this week, maybe not. Maybe Sooner Magic kicks in. But the second thing that you got to see for Oklahoma this week to be able to go out there and win this game is you got to be able to establish the run game. So if you look at games where Ole Miss has struggled, right? You look at their schedule, right? You look at the teams that have beat them. I exactly what Kentucky did. And it's not that Kentucky passed the ball really well outside of one deep pass. Kentucky controlled time of possession over Ole Miss. In that game that Kentucky won, they had 39 minutes to Ole Miss's 20 minutes. They caused one turnover. They had 22 first downs, only 336 yards. Actually, Ole Miss outgained them with 353 in that game. What you look at is Kentucky being able to just kind of do some stuff in the passing game, but also really being able to rely on their run game to control that time of possession. That's what Oklahoma needs to be able to do. You need to get Javonte Barnes and Taylor Tatum. I even want to see Caleb Hicks out there, right? I want to be able to see them go out there. I want to be able to see them get a lot of run. I want to see a lot of running on 1, 2, maybe pass on third down, but if it's a short fourth down, run it on fourth as well. Try to get those first downs. Try to give your offense as many opportunities as possible, because if you can keep Ole Miss's offense on the sideline, which Ole Miss currently right now has the second-ranked offense in the country behind Miami, averaging 560.7 yards per game and 7.68 yards per play, that is going to be a good recipe to win this game. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, we haven't been able to get the running game going in the past. It's not really true. We've been able to get good runs, and you've been able to get good series where you're running the ball. The problem was Seth Luttrell stopped running the ball, and he stopped running outside zones where Oklahoma was doing very well. So you would expect Joe John Finley and Kevin Johns to be able to learn from those mistakes and maybe continue to keep that going, especially if the running game is going well and Ole Miss isn't able to stop it. You got to remember, looking at the availability report, Ole Miss might be without some of their defensive linemen in this game. So being able to run the ball, I think, is going to be able to crucial for Oklahoma, and you got to be able to establish that early. Even if you're not scoring on some of those drives, that's okay. You just want to be able to take time off the clock from Ole Miss and give your offense an opportunity to go out there and win this game. Now, thirdly, I look at the defense, and I look at the defense as Jackson Dart's going to want to sling the ball around the field, and he might not have Trey Harris for this game. He looks like he might be out. He was listed as questionable on the availability report. If you're Oklahoma's defense, the one thing you didn't do against South Carolina was make South Carolina create a turnover. Oklahoma's defense has to be able to create turnovers in this game. And I know it's easier for the defense to create turnovers if the offense puts the other offense in a position to where they have to be able to move the ball down the field in a position where they feel like they need to score. Obviously, then at that point, the quarterback is more likely to make mistakes. But this defense is good enough to make this offense make mistakes. They're good enough to bait Jackson Dart into making specific throws. They need to be able to do that. And I'm not saying to go out there and score on one, but if Oklahoma scores on a defensive touchdown, this could be similar to the Auburn game. Like that might be all you need to win this game. So if you're Oklahoma, you want to see a Billy Bowman and Danny Stutzman and an Ethan Downs and a Woody Washington really step up in this game as seniors on this defense and help get this defense to create those turnovers to give your offense even more opportunities. Now, again, that comes back a lot to the offense to say the offense needs to get a lead. And, if they can get a 7-0 lead early, that might be all you need for your defense to be able to create that pressure to get that turnover, because then Ole Miss's offense feels that pressure to be able to move the ball down the field and score. And, it just makes the defensive lives a lot easier. So, and obviously, too, if your offense is scoring, I feel like the defense has a little bit more motivation to play a little bit harder because, well, at that point, they don't feel like they're the only ones having to carry this team. So you're looking at that for Oklahoma's offense. And this offense is just historically bad for Oklahoma. But I'm looking at the game here, over under at 48.5. Guys, that means they have Ole Miss at 28 points. 28 points. And they got Oklahoma scoring 8. No. 28. No, they'd have, shoot, minus 20. This ain't looking good, guys. All right, let's take a look at this one. If I had to pick the game today, Ole Miss being on 2-game losing streak, they're going to try to come off the start. I mean, I'm picking Ole Miss to win this. I picked them at the beginning of the season to win this. They're going to win it again. I want to say Oklahoma's offense is going to go out there and score at least 2 touchdowns this week. At least 2. We haven't been able to see it. So I think I'll give Oklahoma 13 points. I think the offense can score 1 touchdown and then maybe get 2 field goals, but I don't think I can go any higher than that. I don't think Ole Miss covers a 20-point spread. I really don't. If you're looking at 48.5 on the over-under, I would probably say we're going to be under that as well. I would probably say we're going to be in the 35 to 40 range in terms of total score. If the defense goes out there and scores 13 points, I think that's enough for the defense to be able to go out there and make some stops. I just want to see the offense create some sustainable drives. I would say it's 24 to 13 Ole Miss. I think it's going to be a scrappy game. I think it's going to be a tough game for Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, especially if they're going to be missing as many guys that were listed on the availability report. I don't think Ole Miss is going to be able to run the ball in Oklahoma. Eli Bowen, I think, has been great as a coverage corner there. I think he'll get the start again, and I think he can take on a task of helping cover a guy like Trey Harris if Trey Harris plays. But Ole Miss's wide receiver core, they're pretty good. Jackson Dart, like I said, he can sling the ball around. I don't think Oklahoma wins this game. However, as an OU fan, you should not be shocked if you see Kevin Johns and Joe John Finley go out here and scheme up a really good game plan. And you just see the offense with some rejuvenated energy to go out there and, score some points, move the ball in ways that we haven't seen them do it this year. I would not be shocked. I don't think anybody else should be shocked to see that this season. So if you see that happen and Oklahoma comes out victorious, I think that puts the whole season in front of them. We were talking about this in the Discord the other day, but I said if Oklahoma wins this game and they're 5-3, 2-3 in conference, Oklahoma now sits in a position where your entire season is in front of you. I want Oklahoma fans to realize that the season is not over for Oklahoma. At 9-3, you get into the playoffs, especially because that means your offense made a drastic turnaround. The committee's going to see that. Now, it's very unlikely. It's probably less than a 5% chance that that's going to happen. But you never know. We've seen offenses when a head coach or a offensive coordinator is fired just turn around, right? Sometimes all it is just they need a new voice, somebody that can help them execute a little bit better or scheme up better plays. So if they beat Ole Miss, you got to get right game against Maine next week. And that would put Oklahoma at 6-3 before you head into your final 3 games of the season. If Missouri doesn't have Brady Cook, that game looks a lot more achievable to be able to win. And then you just got Bama and LSU at the end of the season. Bama hasn't played well. LSU is on the rise. Their defense is playing a lot better than I think a lot of people expect at the beginning of the season. I just want Oklahoma fans to don't be too optimistic this week and fill it full of hopium that, Oklahoma is going to make some drastic change, but don't chalk it up as it can't possibly get better, right? I think it can. And I think this week you could see a difference. Even if Oklahoma loses this week, if the offense goes out there and scores 3 or 4 touchdowns, I think you feel really good about where this offense is for Oklahoma and where it could potentially be going, because Ole Miss's defense is one of the top 15 defenses in the country. So if you do that on an Ole Miss defense, you would feel really good about where you potentially are heading. So that's kind of it today. Those are kind of just my thoughts on the game this weekend. I'm going to have some updates for you guys on recruiting, probably on Sunday after the post-game preview. So make sure you guys tune in for those. We talked to Jaden O'Neal. We talked to Michael Pasusi and some of those guys. But if you guys haven't already, you guys new to the channel, make sure you guys hit that like, hit the subscribe button, join the discussion, jump in the comments below. And if you guys are listening to this on any of the podcast platforms, make sure you guys hit that like and you hit that subscribe button.